Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish to the congregation. Goat versus fish to the congregation of Goat versus Fish. Welcome to a morning motivational celebrational verses once again in the temple of Goat versus Fish, in the first temple of the first church of Goat versus Fish. The first temple of the first church of Goat versus Fish. And the glorious verses it is, and the glorious verses it is. Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. Shall open this verses. Shall open this verses. Goat versus fish. Shall open this verses with the one true question. Are you goat or are you fish? With each morning motivational, with each verses we rise, we are greeted with so many options and so many choices. Whether to rise, whether to stay in bed, what to consume, what not to consume, whether to go about your labors or whether to relaxation, caffeination or hydration. Do you call your loved ones? Do you keep to yourself? Do you offer affections on the way out? Or do you let them rest? Within your mind are many such verses, Do we turn left? Do we turn right? Do we take the freeway? Do we take the surface? What do we wear? Every verses, choices you are making abound. Choices you are making abound. So many choices you perhaps do not realize how many choices you are making every single verses. Some decisions you may have made long ago, and you no longer ponder them. For goat and fish, if you had to ponder every single question, every single small question you had within your existence, why you could tire, why it is enough to leave someone paralyzed on the fence. And some verses in our exhaustion, we do not know why we feel paralyzed. Perhaps it's because long ago you chose goat, but goat no longer suits your verses. But you have just been goating for so long that you have forgotten that there is no right or wrong, there is only goat and fish. Perhaps many verses ago, for the sake of expediency, the very sea of the fish, perhaps for expediency you chose fish, and now you're locked into fish, and you have chosen fish, but are you truly choosing goat or fish? If it is not with your full mind and will, if it is not with your full horn and gill, goat and fish. Now many of these choices, goat versus fish, invitation you to revisitation. An invitation to revisitation, many of these choices. Why take goat versus fish? Consider goat versus fish. Goat versus fish has not consumed a sustenance from outside of goat versus fish. Of course, goat versus fish is consuming ourselves always. And you too are consuming goat versus fish. You who are watching are consuming goat versus fish. And celebration for joining this morning motivational services here in the temple of goat versus fish. Goat versus fish after the morning motivational yester verses. Goat versus fish had a light consumption of vegetation and hydration. And since that consumption yester versus goat versus fish has consumed nothing but the hydration of the sea of the fish. Once with carbonation, but nothing but the hydration of the sea of the fish. Not a sweet, not a fat, none of that. Goat versus fish. Some say you are slowing, goat versus fish. Some say you are fasting, goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. is fasting. Goat versus fish is fasting this versus, and we will not consume again until after this morning motivation is completion. Goat versus fish is hungry. Goat versus fish hungers. Goat versus fish hungers. Even as goat versus fish is larger than ever before, goat versus fish hungers. But what greater nourishment could we ask for than the nourishment of the very congregation that is here with goat versus fish? Of the very congregation here with goat versus fish. Why, look at this glorious congregation. Look how they gather in the name of goat versus fish. Look how they gather in the name of goat versus fish. Our devoted congregation here at the temple of goat versus fish. And look how they congregation on the interwebiverse here for goat versus fish, here for this morning motivational. BBDH 187 is in the congregation. Celebration for BBDH 187. Celebration for eventually goldfish. Celebration for Psychic Buckeye 12. Celebration for Lucid Nap. Celebration for Ryborg. Welcome to Goat versus Fish. Welcome to Goat versus Fish. On this versus of Goat versus Fish will be introducing new technology to the temple of Goat versus Fish. You'll want to see this. And so goat and fish, here we are with goat versus fish. Here we are with goat versus fish with an invitation for you. So many choices you have already made in your existence. But before you go changing up all of those verses, the first verse to consider is, are you goat or are you fish? This is a verses that is not to be left to auto decision every verses. Now we know it's a fancy world out there, yes. Very often, many say, I chose goat, and never again have I pondered if I am fish. I chose fish, never again have I pondered if I am goat. But Goat versus Fish offers you the one true question. Every verses. Ask yourself the first question you ask yourself when you rise, even before you open your eyes. Am I goat or am I fish? You ask this unto yourself. You make a declaration. I am goat. I am fish. You may say it out loud. You may say it within yourself. Am I goat? Am I fish? Or if you wish, you may become goat versus fish. Yes, you may become goat versus fish. For when you ask yourself, am I goat or fish? When you ask yourself, are you goat or fish? You become goat versus fish in that verses. When you ask, are you goat or fish? When you ask, are you goat or fish to yourself or to another in that verses, you become goat versus fish. Not for all verses, but in the verses of now, as the verses escape your lips or as you are typing it out, during that very duration, you become goat versus fish. You become goat versus fish. You may still be goat, you may still be fish, but you become goat versus fish in that verses when you ask the one true question. So for those who aspire to be goat versus fish, you may wonder how. You may think it is a towel, you may think it is a crown. But if you aspire to be Goat vs. Fish, then simply ask, are you goat or are you fish? To everyone you know, to everyone you know, to everyone you don't know, ask, are you goat or are you fish? Wow, Mom, welcome to Goat vs. Fish. Infinite Skyline, welcome to Goat vs. Fish. Dragon Balls, welcome to Goat vs. Fish. Bud Morgan, welcome to Goat vs. Fish. Welcome to Goat vs. Fish, a mighty morning motivational to you. Once you have chosen goat or fish, once you have made this active affirmation of goat or fish, then perhaps, you may re-examination other decisions in your existence. For the fish who rises one verses and asks itself, are you goat or are you fish, and finds that it has become goat this verses, this may be a great indication of many other changes to come. An indication that a new stratagem is needed in the mighty verses. An indication that there is something offensive about your labors or your chores. Something that needs changed, something that needs rearranged. Here in the Temple of Goat vs. Fish, we are doing much rearranging. Why just Yester versus Goat vs. Fish shifted many of the cameras and verses here in the Temple of Goat vs. Fish. We shifted it to the goat side. We shifted it to the fish. We moved it all about. Perhaps some of you cannot tell. And that's all as well. It was a pleasure for Goat vs. Fish to spend these bonus verses here in the congregation. A congregation we bring to you with elation. Goat vs. Fish wishes to show you one of these verses. What might we notice here about Goat vs. Fish? If we look up at Goat vs. Fish, if we look up here at Goat vs. Fish, what's this? Something shimmering in the verses? Behold, the shimmering of Goat vs. Fish, Behold the shimmering of Goat vs. Fish. Yes, the Temple of Goat vs. Fish is alive. The Temple of Goat vs. Fish is alive. The sparkly, shiny verse shimmers upon you. Yes, Goat vs. Fish has placed a fan of Goat vs. Fish. Many of you are fans of Goat vs. Fish. Celebrations in the congregations if you are a fan of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish has placed here a fan of Goat vs. Fish, Behind the fence, there is a fan of Goat vs. Fish. Yes, there's room for everyone in the congregation. Goat vs. Fish has placed a fan of Goat vs. Fish. Look at the fans of Goat vs. Fish. Look at them verses. Oh, this is a beautiful thing. Yes, the ripples of the shininess, the reverberations of the clashes of the goat and fish. The fan of Goat vs. Fish keeps Goat vs. Fish cool. Goat vs. Fish is cool. Goat vs. Fish is cool in the face of the fans. These fans also keep cool. The cameras of Goat vs. Fish also keep cool. The cameras of Goat vs. Fish and the very temple of Goat vs. Fish. This simple installation of the technology of Goat vs. Fish improves the temple of Goat vs. Fish for all goat and fish. So it is celebration, so it is celebration, so it is celebration, goat and fish. It is celebration, goat and fish. For even this humble technological improvement in the congregation of goat versus fish, and it was a celebration, and it was a celebration. And it was a celebration. Celebration, celebration, celebration. Celebration, celebration, celebration. Goat versus fish, 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 goat versus fish. Goat versus fish, goat. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Enyo, welcome to the congregation. It's a simple song. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Sing along with goat versus fish. Sing along in the congregation. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Not too late for the service, ham mods. Welcome, welcome to the services. Welcome to the service of goat versus fish. Are you goat or are you fish? You can sing along with goat versus fish. Yes, goat versus fish, goat versus fish. Yay! Simple, humble musications from the congregation of Goat versus Fish. Humble congregations from the musications of Goat versus Fish. And now, hydration for Goat versus Fish. And now, hydration for Goat versus Fish. Hydration for Goat versus Fish. Hydration for Goat versus Fish. Yes, we all need our hydration, don't we, Goat and Fish? We all need our hydration. Let us drink a libation, let us drink a libation. Goat and Fish, the verses has come for a morning hydration, for a morning hydration. A morning hydration for the goat, a morning hydration for goat, a morning hydration for goat. Celebration for goat. Celebration for a morning hydration. Celebration for a morning hydration for goat. That was a goat hydration. That was a goat hydration. Bayard in 420 with 45 consecutive streams of Goat versus Fish. Celebration for your devotion and dedication to yourself and to Goat versus Fish. And now, a hydration for fish. Let us raise the verses for the fish. Hydration for fish. Hydration for fish. Hydration for fish. Hydration for fish. For those of you who missed the sermonization, we invitation all of you, before you make all of your choices, this verses, always ask yourself first, whenever you rise, even before you open your eyes, ask yourself, are you goat or fish? Choose goat or fish. See how you feel about that decision, and let it be a guide. Let it be a guide for the rest of your day here on the Morning Motivational, or whenever it is you may rise. And Goat versus Fish also has told you that Goat versus Fish is currently fasting. We are about 22 hours into a fast. Goat versus Fish has not made any consumption for about 22 hours, perhaps 23. Goat versus Fish does hunger. Goat versus Fish does hunger. But it is an experimentation with Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish has been trying so many new verses. The Temple of Goat versus Fish, so many new verse improvements since the morning motivationals began at the January of Jan. And the morning motivationals have continued. Goat versus Fish has been making verse improvements all around Goat versus Fish. And Goat versus Fish thought, Goat versus Fish, it's time for verse improvements in the verses within. Yes, Goat and Fish, when we see that someone has a screw loose, when there's a screw loose, you give it a tighten. You give it a tighten, you tighten you. And we are so keen to point out the fenciness in others. You should have gone goat that versus, you should have gone fish. But often these can be distractions. These can be distractions from the verse improvements you need to be making within. You need to be making within. Now, Goat and Fish, Goat versus Fish, will make consumption again. Goat versus Fish is not here to tell you to abstain from consumption. No, consumption is a classic verses of Goat versus Fish. But Goat versus Fish does conduct this fast, and we shall see, perhaps Goat versus Fish shall fast again after our next consumption. And now, a hydration for the fence sitter. A hydration for the fence sitter. For all who come to the temple of Goat vs. Fish shall receive hydration and shall receive consumption upon request. This is a services of Goat vs. Fish. This is one of the services of the Church of Goat vs. Fish. When one requests hydration or consumption, it shall be offered. It shall be offered. Even if it is but humble and modest, it shall be offered upon request. Celebration. Celebration, celebration. This hydration is for the fence creature. Welcome to the Temple of Goat vs. Fish. Dragon Balls 325 with 5 consecutive watch streams. Celebration, celebration for 5 streams, celebration for 5 streams, for the verses. Eventually, Goldfish says, I'll whip and chastise myself and carry a large wooden fish. There are many ways that the goat and fish, over the verses, many ways, goat and fish, that the goat and fish have practiced Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish is not here to advocate self-flagellation. We think the fast of Goat vs. Fish, we think that's enough self-flagellation of Goat vs. Fish. We don't think we need to hit ourselves with a large wooden fish. But if that is what you wish to do for you, you may hit yourself with a large wooden fish. But safety first, and do not inflict this wooden fish upon others without their express consent. Should you smack someone with a large wooden fish without their consent, you will find that you are not wielding a fish, but a fence. Beware the fence. Beware the fence. This versus Goat vs. Fish performs at the Illusion Magic Lounge in Santa Monica. Doors at 6:30, show at 7:30 p.m. here in Los Angeles for Booby Trap. Booby Trap, they say, is the greatest show in LA. If you are here in Los Angeles, come see Goat vs. Fish at the Booby Trap. Scott Neary's Booby Trap, and celebration for Scott Bluegrind, who assists Goat vs. Fish in receiving this mighty booking. And it was written. Very exciting, yes. Oh, Lucid Nap, are you here in Los Angeles? Goat and Fish. Yester versus, the goat did triumph over the fish. Yester versus the goat did triumph over the fish. Yester versus the goat did triumph over the fish, but now it's time for a new versus. Soon we shall engage in technological improvements here in Goat vs. Fish. But until such verses, Goat vs. Fish, we shall do our morning declarations. Are you goat or are you fish? Goat vs. Fish is ready to make it written, Goat vs. Fish is ready to make it written in Goat vs. Fish, for Yester versus the goat did triumph by but one goat. A reminder to the congregation of Goat vs. Fish. Every bit, every exclamation point tip, every subscription, every radiation, every contribution you make to Goat vs. Fish will be counted in the verses of Goat vs. Fish, and especially your declaration of goat or fish. And many of you want more Goat vs. Fish. Well, what about a Friday stream of Goat vs. Fish? The Goat vs. Fish morning motivational, Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But what if there was a 5-hour Friday stream? Your support of Goat vs. Fish, the aspiring prophet for non-profit. Goat and Fish, if you wish that 5-hour Friday stream, to unlock that 5-hour Friday stream, every Verse American dollar of contribution you make to Goat vs. Fish will be contribution towards the 5-hour Friday fund. Once it reaches 500 Verse American dollars, it unlocks a 5-hour Friday stream. And this verses, we begin with 129 versus American dollars and 4 cents. 129 versus American dollars and 4 cents. Celebration, celebration. We're over 20%. We're over 20% of the way there. Are you goat or are you fish? It is time for your morning declarations. Are you goat or are you fish? Tell us, are you goat or fish? Tell us why you choose goat or fish. These are the verses of Goat versus Fish. And Lucid Nap has opened the verses by declaring goat, has opened the verses by declaring goat, and a celebration for goat, and a celebration for goat, and a celebration for goat. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish begins a new verses. Goat versus fish begins a new verses. Goat versus fish begins a new verses here on Goat versus Fish. A new verses here on Goat versus Fish. We have Lucid Nap the goat, Lucid Nap the goat. And it was written, Lucid Nap the goat, your goat has been written in Goat versus Fish. And we have in this verses Psychic Buckeye 12 who eats the fish. Celebration for goat, the goat who eats the fish. Yes, the hunger of Goat versus Fish, the hunger of Goat versus Fish persists. The hunger of Goat versus Fish persists. But Goat versus Fish is nourished through your very actions, Psychic Buckeye 12. A celebration for goat, a celebration for goat. Año has chosen goat. Año has chosen goat. Here in the temple of Goat versus Fish, the goat are pressing their advantage. Three goat now in the verses. Celebration for goat, celebration for goat. Dragon Balls 325 is a goat. Dragon Balls 325 is a goat for unification, And thus, we begin a tri-sectional verses. For some goat and fish, they are for unification. And Dragon Balls 325, the goat, is for unification. Do you seek unification? Let it be known, let it be known, let it be shown. Ham Mods is fish. Celebration for fish, celebration for fish. The first fish in the verses. Celebration for Ham Mods the fish. Celebration for Ham Mods the fish. How go those mods, Ham Mods? Have you finished with those mods yet? How goes the modification? TML 81 is for fish. TML 81 is for fish. And a celebration for fish. Celebration TML 81. TML 81. We know TML 81. That you're going through some fence times. But Goat versus Fish lends you the strength of Goat versus Fish. The congregation, the whole congregation lends TML the strength of Goat versus Fish. Celebration for TML Fish. Lucid Nap seeks unification. That's one more goat for unification. That's one more goat for unification. That's two goat for unification. That's two goat for unification. Ryborg is on the fence. Ryborg is on the fence. Pitiable fence creature. Pitiable fence creature. BBDH 187 the fish. BBDH 187 the fish. We believe we have counted your fish. We have two fish in the verses. BBDH 187, Ham Mods the fish. Fish because we need to swim onto better currents. Where will you find these currents, fish? Ryborg is on the fence. The pitiable fence creature Ryborg. Some sort of cybernetic organism is on the fence. But the fence sitters are welcome indeed to Goat versus Fish. That's one fence sitter. Because they say the middle path is the way. But the fence is not the way. The fence merely obstructs the way. How many verses have you been on your way and the fence obstructions your path? The goat as it goes to the sea, the fish as it goes to the land, the fence obstructs their path, preventing the verses of goat and fish. The fence sitters like to believe that they are the middle way, even as they sway, even as they lean towards goat or towards fish. BBDH 187 doubles the fish in the verses. Yes, Goat versus Fish is live on Twitch and on YouTube. You can double your verses with a declaration on both. Celebration for fish. And Goat and Fish. Baodin 420 was in the verses for fish. So we shall count 4 fish. Wow Mom was in the verses for goat. We count Wow Mom's goat. Are you goat or are you fish? Dragon Ball 325 got your unification shirt for the verses. Celebration for unification. Behold the unity of goatfish. Behold the unity of GoatFish. Yes, the unification is strong this verses. The unification is strong this verses. And behold the unification of goat and fish just there right above goat versus fish. Just right there above goat versus fish. The unification on the shirt of goat versus fish. On the shirt of goat versus fish. So much unification. And yet we are still in verses. Yet we are still in verses. Yet we are still in the verses of goat versus fish. To seek out who does triumph, the goat or the fish. TML is fish. TML is fish. TML is fish declares Fred and Ted for fish versus. Fred and Ted for fish versus. Celebration for Fred and Ted. TML is fish. Tell us about Fred and Ted. So consistently, you have said Fred and Ted. We want to learn more about Fred and Ted, these mighty consistent members of the congregation of Goat versus Fish who make their declarations known, particularly on YouTube and not on Twitch. Sean Knight, 6767. Celebration 67. Celebration for SeanKnight.com. Sean Knight 67 for Goat. Welcome back to the congregation. Welcome back, Sean Knight, to the congregation of Goat versus Fish. To the congregation of Goat versus Fish. And Sean Knight declares Goat. Sean Knight declares Goat as well. Declares Goat as well on Twitch. Declares Goat as well on Twitch. Yes, Goat and Fish. Yes, Goat and Fish. Yes, Goat and Fish. It's a glorious verses. It's a glorious verses. It's a glorious verses. The shimmering Goat versus Fish. The shimmering Goat versus Fish. SeanKnight.com for Goat. SeanKnight.com for Goat. Celebration for Goat. Celebration for Goat. Celebration for Goat. Padistador is fish. Celebration for fish. We count the fish. We count the fish. We count the fish for Padistador. A celebration for fish. A mighty fish. A mighty fish. And Ryborg, the fence sitter, asks, are you goat or are you fish to Goat versus Fish? Because as Goat versus Fish has verses, the fence sitter wants nothing more than to be Goat versus Fish, which is a mighty aspiration. The fence sitter wishes to be Goat versus Fish. And so when questioned, are you goat or are you fish? They believe they cleverly reverse the verses on Goat versus Fish and ask Goat versus Fish, are you goat or fish? They think they reverse the verses. They think they reverse the verses on Goat versus Fish, asking, are you goat or fish to Goat versus Fish? And in that verses, they become Goat versus Fish. They become Goat versus Fish. Even the fence sitter, when asking, are you goat or fish, becomes Goat versus Fish. And if the fence sitter is indeed becoming Goat versus Fish, when asking Goat versus Fish, are you goat or are you fish? And the fence sitter would ask Goat versus Fish, are you goat or fish? Then Goat versus Fish would ask Goat versus Fish, are you goat or are you fish? Ryborg, are you goat or are you fish? You think you can reverse the verses on Goat versus Fish, but the verses are reversed again. The verses are still true. It's still Goat versus Fish. Are you goat or are you fish? Celebration. And in this verses now of Goat versus Fish, in this verses now of Goat versus Fish, in this verses now of Goat versus Fish, we find 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6 fish. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5 goat, 1 fence sitter. Bud Morgan is on the fence. Bud Morgan is on the fence. You claim to be perpetually on the fence. Well, Goat versus Fish, the temple of Goat versus Fish is perpetually here for you. Welcome. Welcome. 2 fence sitters in the verses, 2 goat for unification, 5 goat for versing the fish, and 6 fish for versing the goat. This means, Goat and Fish, that in the current verses, the fish are triumphing in the current verses. The fish are triumphing in the current verses with 1 verses for fish, a slight advantage to goat, a slight advantage to goat, a slight advantage to goat. And here goes the verses. Here goes. Behold, this mighty prize of Goat versus Fish, this mighty prize of Goat versus Fish. Behold the mighty prize of Goat versus Fish. Let this be an indication of who is triumphing in the verses. The fish is triumphing, the fish is triumphing thus far. And thus, the crown of Goat versus Fish, the crown of Goat versus Fish, being wrested away from Goat, and going towards the side of Fish, going towards the side of Fish. Yes, Goat and Fish. Yes, Goat and Fish. We have verses over many things, but here, this mighty trophy of Goat versus Fish, for now, it is going towards Fish. It's going towards Fish. Discord celebration. TML81 wants to get into the Discord of Goat versus Fish. Welcome. And now, Goat and Fish. Now, Goat and Fish. It wouldn't be Goat versus Fish, would it? It wouldn't be Goat versus Fish. It wouldn't be Goat versus Fish without the seeking of donations from the congregation of Goat versus Fish. But many have said, Goat versus Fish, many have said, hey, Goat versus Fish, we want notifications. We want notifications for our donations. We want animations in the stream of Goat versus Fish. And for a versus, Goat versus Fish did resist. We like how you see. We like how you see that what you see is what you get on Goat versus Fish. There are many streams out there on Twitch and beyond where you are just bombarded with animations. Every interaction you make is another bombardment here on Goat versus Fish. And Goat versus Fish thought that perhaps the temple of Goat versus Fish could be a place of respite, where you didn't have to have all of these verses. But Goat versus Fish has entered negotiation with the congregation. Goat versus Fish will permit an animation to play when you make a donation, when you make a subscription to Goat versus Fish. However, it will not make any jangly noises. It will merely be something that is seen. It will merely be something that is seen for your recognition. And that's the verses. That's the verses of Goat versus Fish. And so in the name of new technology of Goat versus Fish, before soliciting donations from the congregation, Goat versus Fish is going to put an animation for you. So when you make your contribution to Goat versus Fish, it will be recognition. They crave the animations. So join Goat versus Fish. Join Goat versus Fish. Join Goat versus Fish as we do this programification, Join Goat versus Fish as we do this programification. Hi. Goat versus Fish. First, we must enable the verses. So Goat versus Fish. Streamlabs.com. Log in. Twitch. Goat versus Fish has logged in the verses. Money talks, Ryborg, you say? Money talks? Well, are you talking to Goat versus Fish? Are you talking to Goat versus Fish? Alert box. Goat versus Fish. Let us see. Oh my verses. Oh, that was a test verses. That was only offense. So the sound verses is at 60%, it looks like. 60%. Goat versus Fish shall put enable follows on. Follows will receive notification. However, the sound has been reduced to not. How about subscriptions? Enabled, but the sound of the Goat and Fish has been reduced to not. This versus bits for Goat versus Fish. Enabled, but the verses for not. Goat and Fish. Power-ups, enabled, but a sound reduction on Goat versus Fish. A sound reduction on Goat versus Fish. Raids. Oh, my verses. Enabled, but a sound reduction on Goat versus Fish. Tips.
Kevin contribution $64. This is a test donation for $64.
Perhaps Goat versus Fish could leave up the tip. Versus Goat versus Fish will leave the tip. The tip will remain making sound alert sounds on Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, yes, the tip will continue making sound alert sounds on Goat versus Fish.
Kevin contribution $19. This is a test donation for
Okay, that's a fine. Go, goat versus fish.
Kevin.
Tips shall continue. Tips shall be the only sound alert that makes a versus, because after all, goat and fish, your donation and your contribution to goat versus fish, your donation and your contribution to goat versus fish. Yes, when you make an exclamation point tip to goat versus fish, more of your versus American dollar goes towards goat versus fish, and Lucid Nap with 47 months, Oh, but where's the animation? The animation has not yet been programmification, Let's go, briefly now, goat and fish, Oh, my verses. Oh, a sound alert. We still heard the sound on goat versus fish. We thought we turned off the sound on subscriptions to goat versus fish. And yet we still heard the sound on goat versus fish. Oh, my verses. Resubscription. It's like a whole other verses. What? We thought we just had to programification one of these verses. And it would do all the other verses. Oh, goat versus fish. Reprogramification. But once we reprogramification this verses, once we go into the green room of goat versus fish, we'll have to reverses the verses again. Or maybe we won't. Oh, my verses. Save that verses. Resubscription. No sound. Gifted subscription. No sound on goat versus fish. No sound for resubscription. Anonymous gifted sub. No sound on goat versus fish. Community gifted sub, no sound on goat versus fish. Anonymous community gifted sub, no sound on goat versus fish. Oh, so many verses. Oh, goat versus fish. Oh, for bits we have unsilented. Oh, goat versus fish. Oh, my verses. So there's all of these default verses, and we have to change the default for every single verses. For every single verses, goat versus fish. Oh, goat versus fish. They're really fencing around now. With goat versus fish. But we don't need goat versus, but we can disable the defaults on goat versus fish. Default 1, disable. Default 100, yes, we're saving the verses. Default 100, disabled on goat versus fish. Default 1000, disabled on goat versus fish. Default 5000, disabled on goat versus fish. But then we're going to get in the green room of goat versus fish, and you're going to want all of them enabled again. Oh, my verses. Appreciation Thunder Tracks. But we're trying a new verses. We're trying a new verses on goat versus fish. Less sound alerts. Let's do default 10,000. How about you default to 10,000 for goat versus fish? Is that what you wish to do? Do you wish to default to giving 10,000 bits to goat versus fish every versus? That sounds great, I Can Fix Amber Heard. Thank you for your generosity to goat versus fish. Please, default. Default to goat versus fish.
Kevin contribution $93. This is
goat versus fish.
Kevin contribution $24. This is a test donation for $24.
Goat versus fish. Copy that versus. Now goat versus fish will go. Let us briefly go back into the old scenes of goat versus fish. Wow. Remember all of these animations? Remember all of these glorious animations of goat versus fish? Perhaps we could bring some back. During transitions in the temple of goat versus fish. I Can Fix Amber Heard with 110 consecutive verses, encrypted with 3 consecutive verses. Appreciation. But here we have alerts, the alerts of goat versus fish. We're going to copy that versus. We're going to copy the alerts of goat versus fish. We're going to copy the alerts of goat versus fish. Copying the alerts of goat versus fish. Copying the alerts of goat versus fish. And let's make a versus. Let's make a versus here. Alerts seen. We'll make an alerts seen on. We told you this would be a technology stream. So here's the alert scene, the alert scene. We paste a reference to that verses, paste a reference to that verses. Alerts, scene, scene alert, scene alert. We'll make it a large verses, we'll embiggen the verses, we'll embiggen the verses. We'll embiggen the verses very much. We'll embiggen the verses very much. Goat versus fish. This is a technology stream of goat versus fish. Temple versus provements, temple versus provements. Here we are, here we are. Here we are, goat and fish. What do you see? What do you see in the temple of goat versus fish? Suddenly in your mind you perceive a great and glorious peaceful emptiness. A peaceful emptiness on goat versus fish. A peaceful emptiness on goat versus fish. That will soon be filled with goat versus fish. That will soon be filled with goat versus fish. The emptiness is of goat versus fish. The peace is goat versus fish. You want a piece of goat versus fish? Here we have a scene of alerts, a scene of alerts. Let's try this verses. Test the verses. Hey, didn't you say that you wanted to test the verses? Aren't you always like testing this verses when goat versus fish clicks upon this? Goat versus fish follows, subscriptions. Test the verses. Test the verses. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for following Goat versus Fish forever. Behold, the alerts of goat versus fish. The alerts of goat versus fish. We now go into the temple of goat versus fish. We go into the temple of goat versus fish. We add the verses. We add the verses. We add the verses to the temple of goat versus fish. To the temple of goat versus fish. Add verses. We see you chatting in the congregation. We see you chatting we can see you chatting in the congregation of goat versus fish. We see you there. Chatting during the services of goat versus fish. Alerts, alerts, alerts for goat versus fish. Here's the verses. Here's the verses. Goat and fish, the alerts scene has been added to goat versus fish. Has been added to goat versus fish. We test the verses. The alerts have been added to goat versus fish. What a celebration, what a celebration. But it's a bit large for goat versus fish. It's a bit large for goat versus fish. Goat versus fish, we will believe we shall put this centrally in the verses. Centrally in the verses. Centrally in the verses of goat versus fish. Oh, but if it's centrally in the verses, it will decrease the ability of goat versus fish to do further editing of goat versus fish because they'll see the notifications and the edits of goat versus fish. So we are going to put it, the alert scene, perhaps the alert scene will happen. Perhaps the alert scene will be on the side of whoever triumphed last verses. Last verses, it was a triumph for goat. Last verses, it was a triumph for goat. So goat versus fish places the alert scene in goat corner, like this. And there is an alert scene of goat versus fish. There's an alert scene of goat versus fish. You may say, larger goat versus fish, larger goat versus fish. Okay, we'll make it as large. Make it as large as versable. Make it as large as versable. As large as versable. Goat versus fish. Slightly larger on goat versus fish. We know you like it big. We know you like it big. We have made it slightly larger on goat versus fish. So here we are in the temple of goat versus fish. We'll copy the alerts verses. We'll copy the alerts verses. We'll copy the alerts verses. Copy that verses. We'll place it here as well. We'll place it here as well. Paste a reference to that verses. Yes, goat and fish. Yes, goat and fish. Yes, goat and fish. We believe we have achieved alerts on goat versus fish. And now goat versus fish, now goat versus fish. Goat versus fish, if any of you wish to cheer even one bit, Who here would choose even one bit? Who would cheer one bit to goat versus fish to test the verses? Who would cheer even one bit to test the verses of goat versus fish? Who would cheer a bit? Who would cheer just a bit for goat versus fish? Just a bit for goat versus fish to test this new technology of goat versus fish? Who would cheer a bit? Who would cheer a bit? Would you? Would you? Who would do? Who would do? Random TV with one bit. What happened? Where's the verses? Where's the bit of goat versus fish? 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 We saw you cheer a bit to goat versus fish. Appreciation for your services to goat versus fish. Bits are enabled. Goat versus fish. So why the fence? Goat and fish. Who would cheer? Random TV with 115 bits. Celebration is but where's the goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. Once more, celebration. Once more, one bit for goat versus fish. Random TV. Let's try once more, goat and fish. One more bit for goat versus fish. One more bit for goat versus fish. Appreciation, random TV with 115. Maybe it requires more bits. That is a glorious versus. Perhaps it does, but we don't think so. We don't think so. One bit, goat and fish. One bit, goat and fish. We believe we were in the camera scene and not in the temple scene, but now we believe we are in the temple scene. We believe that we have alerts ready to go on goat versus fish. Can we get one bit? Can we get one bit, goat and fish? Can we get a cheer of one more bit on goat versus fish? One more bit. Do it for the congregation. Do it for the morning motivation. One more bit on goat versus fish. Can we get one more bit on goat versus fish? Can we get one more bit? Can we get one more bit in the congregation of goat versus fish? One more bit in the congregation of goat versus fish. Random TV with 115 bits. You are feeling the power of the verses. You are feeling the power of the verses. Random TV, can we get one more bit? Appreciation. No, your browser extension is not messing with the verses. Lord Saturn says, goat versus fish. We are watching from Mount Fuji. The sun is about to rise. Celebration, 50 bits. And there's the verses. There's the verses. Celebration. We now have alerts on goat versus fish. Celebration. You're watching goat versus fish. From the land of the rising verses. Well, goat versus fish has a special verses for you. We're going to make this very special for you. We're going to make this very special for you. We're going to make this very special for you. Very special for you. Very special for you. Appreciation Random TV with the contributions. Behold, the Temple of Goat vs. Fish, a celebration for antagonizer, for antagonizing the denizens of Japan and Taiwan with Goat vs. Fish, for antagonizing all of Asia with Goat vs. Fish, for antagonizing all of Asia with Goat vs. Fish. Thank you for antagonizing all of Asia with Goat vs. Fish. You have climbed, Lord Saturn has climbed Mount Fuji, has climbed Mount Fuji. Are you wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish? Are you wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish? As was written, are you wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish? Are you wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish? Are you goat? Are you fish? Are you goat or are you a fish? Do not sit upon the fence. Are you goat or are you a fish? Celebration for the climbing goat, Lord Saturn the goat, and celebration for antagonizer who climb atop Mount Fuji on this very verses, wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish, wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish, wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish here in the Temple of Goat vs. Fish. We do not wish to be showing all kinds of pictures all over the congregation of the Temple of Goat vs. Fish. However, Goat vs. Fish may make a special exception if you post a picture of yourself atop Mount Fuji, wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish, and you post it in the Discord of Goat vs. Fish, then Goat vs. Fish will share it here on the Goat vs. Fish Morning Motivational. But of course, there's much musications to come out of the land of the rising verses, including this musication inspired, of course, by Goat vs. Fish, from the animation known as Cowboy Bebop. Appreciation for the climb, the very triumph of Lord Saturn the Goat. And because Lord Saturn the Goat has climbed to the top of Mount Fuji on this very verse is a great verse accomplishment wearing the shirt of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish shall award of verses. Goat vs. Fish shall award of verses to Goat. Here on this verses of Goat vs. Fish. A Fuji type verses for Goat. Lord Saturn with mighty accomplishments and all of Antagonizer there with you. Yes, let your spirits be lifted by these verses. Fred and Ted in Discord under Fish. Celebration, the crown of Goat vs. Fish, yes. The crown of Goat vs. Fish. With that verses, the crown of Goat vs. Fish moves towards Goat. It moves towards Goat. Radiation, the Uncle Bo Radiation's Goat vs. Fish with 5. Celebration. And was there a radiation? Was there a radiation versus here? Did we see the radiation? Did we see the radiation alert? Did anyone see the radiation alert? Celebration, welcome with 5 radiations. The Uncle Bo with 5 radiations. Celebration with 5 radiations. That's another versus. That's another versus for Goat. Goat is running away with it. However, let us not forget the contributions of TML Fish with 155, 205, 206 for the fish. With 206 for the fish. We believe it was 206 for the fish. From TML. Goat versus Fish. We'll check that versus. Checking now. Rechecking the verses. Rechecking the verses. Rechecking the verses now. Rechecking the verses now. All this new technology of Goat versus Fish. Rechecking the verses now. Rechecking the verses now. Lord Saturn Goat, your goat will be written in Goat versus Fish. Your goat is written in Goat versus Fish. I Can Fix Amber Heard is on the fence. Is on the fence, wielding a stick once more, pretending it is a sword, play-tending on Goat versus Fish. Play-tending on Goat versus Fish. It was random TV, it was random TV. It was random TV, the fish. It was random TV, the fish. It was random TV with a 115 and 50, 165. 165, 166, 166 for the fish. 166 for the fish. And was there not a subscription for Goat versus Fish? Was there not a subscription for Goat versus Fish? Was there not a subscription for Goat versus Fish? And a 110-watt streak from I Can Fix Amber Heard? There was. It was Lucid Nap with a 48-month streak of Goat versus Fish. That is a subscription for Goat versus Fish. That's a subscription for Goat versus Fish. That's a subscription for Goat versus Fish. 49 months of Goat versus Fish. 49 months of Goat versus Fish. And I Can Fix Amber Heard. A very long verses. Who says, may all our verses stay mighty and our allegiance never waver. May the Goat always find the highest peaks and the fish the deepest waters. May each live true to its own way, never abandoning what it is. For without Goat, there is no fish. Without fish, there is no Goat. May the congregation stand together, not in spite of the verses, but because of it. May our voices never grow quiet, our convictions never weaken, and may Goat versus Fish guide us through every tide and every mountain. You do not need to say amen to Goat versus Fish. You can simply say celebration. 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 Thank you for this verses. Thank you for this verses. It's a glorious prayer to Goat versus Fish. It is a glorious prayer to Goat versus Fish. The Uncle Bo with the radiation appreciation. The Uncle Bo Goat. The Uncle Bo Goat. Your goat has been counted, and those who are raiding the temple of Goat versus Fish. Are you goat or are you fish? Are you goat or are you fish? Are you goat or are you fish? We believe it was 49 months of subscription. 49 months of subscription from Lucid Nap. 49 months of subscription for Goat versus Fish. Celebration, 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 and 166 bits, 166 bits. Appreciation for 166 bits. And the Uncle Bo radiation of 5. Celebration. Is the amen an option, though? Well, the only options truly are Goat or Fish. You can say amen to Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish will not prevent you from saying amen. But we do wish the Church of Goat versus Fish, the Church of Goat versus Fish should have its own internal verses, ways that the goat and fish make communication with one another that are distinct to the church of the temple of the congregation of Goat versus Fish, so that those who are joining Goat versus Fish realize, this is a special place. This is a special and distinct place that is Goat versus Fish. You will know one another. You will know one another out there in the universe. You will know one another out there in the universe when Those around you are saying amen, but there is one who says celebration. And you will know then, goat and fish. You will know your fellow goat or fish by the declaration of celebrations, by the declarations of celebrations. Celebration for hydration. And with 166 and also $3 versus American dollars for the subscription, that's 466. 466 goes towards the 5-hour Friday contribution celebration. Leaving us going up now from 129.04. 129.04 going up to by 466. That will make 70. 70 in the verses, and the 4, 133.70. We have 133.70 towards the 500 versus American dollar 5-hour Friday celebration. And now, goat and fish. And now, goat and fish. Before we check on Fred and Ted in the Discord, goat and fish. The congregation has requested of Goat vs. Fish, the congregation has requested of Goat vs. Fish, that Goat vs. Fish provide you with alerts, visual alerts, when you make donations and follows and contributions to Goat vs. Fish. And now that the alerts have been prepared for you, bleh! We've got a goat in the verses. Celebration for goat, celebration for goat. Although your name is fence possible to read for some verses. Kipa or Kipo, celebration for goat. Your goat is written in the verses of Goat vs. Fish. Now that Goat vs. Fish has technologically prepared the alerts for you, Goat vs. Fish now makes the formal request for donations and contributions to Goat vs. Fish. You may say, Goat vs. Fish, but wait! But wait, the one cries out. But wait, the one cries out. Before you go soliciting donation. But wait, says Brick Griff. Welcome, Brick Griff, to Goat vs. Fish. Welcome, Brick Griff, to Goat vs. Fish. Welcome to the congregation. Are you goat or are you fish, Brick Griff? Are you goat or fish? Are you goat or are you fish? This is the one true question, and welcome to the Temple of Goat vs. Fish. Welcome to the Temple of Goat vs. Fish. In addition to all of the goat and fish that you see here in the chat, we also have all of these wonderful ones here in the congregation of Goat vs. Fish. Look how lovely they are. Look how lovely they all are. Look how attentive they are to Goat vs. Fish. Look how they watch, wrapped with Goat vs. Fish, wrapped with the mighty sermonization of the verses. Brick Griff follows Goat vs. Fish. Brick Griff follows Goat vs. Fish. Celebration. Celebration for Griff. Celebration for Brick Griff. Celebration for Brick Griff, who follows Goat vs. Fish. Brick Griff, are you goat or are you fish? Are you goat or are you fish? Are you goat or are you fish? Brick Griff says, I am Shroom. The Lorax approves. You may be a Lorax, you may speak for the trees. Well, Goat vs. Fish would ask all of the trees, are you goat or are you fish? Are you goat or are you fish? The fence sitter. Beware the fence sitter who sits on the fence choosing neither goat nor fish. The fence sitter may say that goats are a kind of fish, may even say that goats are a kind of fish. They may even say that fish are a kind of goat. Fish may be kind to goat. Goat may be kind to fish. But goat and fish, do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. No. Do not be deceived by the fence sitter. Why would they say that? Well, they said it. They said it right here on Goat vs. Fish. They said it on Goat vs. Fish. They said it on Goat vs. Fish. You don't think anyone would fall for that? Well, they're trying it. They're trying it here. Brick Griff is trying it. But Brick Griff, you are new to Goat vs. Fish. We welcome you to the congregation. Can we all welcome in Twitch? Can we all welcome Brick Griff to the Versed Church of Goat vs. Fish? Exclamation church, to follow the Church of Goat vs. Fish on Instagram. And if one of you says, but Goat vs. Fish, there are so few followers of the Church of Goat vs. Fish, you can exclamation IG to Goat vs. Fish, and you can follow GoatVsFish. You can follow Goat vs. Fish, where there are over 4,000 followers of GoatVsFish on all social media. And there are also the Church of Goat vs. Fish to join. SeanKnight.com with the gifted verses. SeanKnight.com with the gifted verses to the congregation. SeanKnight.com with the gifted verses to the congregation of Goat vs. Fish. Celebration. Appreciation UK Superstar says great vibes as always. The vocabulary of UK Superstar is increasing, but you are still yet to declare goat or fish. UK Superstar, are you goat or are you fish? SeanKnight.com with the gifted verses for goat, with the gifted verses for goat, and that's 3 more verse American dollars, 3 more verse American dollars towards the 5-hour Friday celebrations. Celebration. Brick Griff, you have been welcomed by SeanKnight.com. Celebration. And yes, Goat and Fish, would it be the Church of Goat vs. Fish? Would it be the Temple of Goat vs. Fish without explicit solicitation for your donations to Goat vs. Fish? Goat vs. Fish now makes an official and a goatal declaration. Yes, a request, a humble ask for your offerings to Goat vs. Fish as we seek to become a non-profit 501c3 religious organization. The Church of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish now implores you to exclamation point tip and make your donations to Goat vs. Fish. If you wish, you may also make contributions by the verses of subscriptions or bits, but Goat vs. Fish will indeed appreciation tips for Goat vs. Fish. Make your voice heard in the congregation of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish now takes the mighty meditation bowl of Goat vs. Fish, and we will make our rounds around the congregation in expectation of donation. In expectation of donation. Let the collection begin. Now is the verses. Now is the verses to show your devotion, and dedication by making contributions during the services of Goat vs. Fish. We go to the Goat and Fish, requesting humble donation for the furtherance of the congregation of Goat vs. Fish. Random TV with 500 bits of contribution to the Church of Goat vs. Fish. Appreciation, 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 appreciation. Moving the verses slightly towards fish. Slightly towards fish. Goat versus fish approaches the congregation, seeking humble offerings for the Church of Goat versus Fish. We think at this verses, Sunshine will start playing glorious organ music to inspire your contributions. But Sunshine is not here. Sunshine is in Sri Lanka now. But Sunshine will return to Goat versus Fish. Sunshine will return to Goat versus Fish. Sunshine will return to Goat versus Fish. The future verses. Random TV with 500 bits. J-Sticks, are you goat or fish? 500 bits, that makes, oh my verses, 666 in contribution, a total of 666 in contribution for fish. What's behind that crown? Why, it's an enumeration. It's an enumeration of how close we are to 5-hour Fridays on Goat versus Fish. Once we achieve 500 verse American dollars in contributions, it will unlock a 5-hour Friday stream for your verse enjoyment. We'll even do it in the green room. We'll do a 5-hour green room, stream room. Maybe we'll do an hour here on Goat versus Fish. 5 verse American dollars, that's 141.70. We are at 141.70 towards the 5-hour Friday stream for another 8 verse American dollars and 30 cents would put us at 150, which would put us at 30%. 30%. Can we get to 30% of the way to 5-hour Friday with 8 verse American dollars and 70 cents? J-Sticks, are you goat or are you fish? Are you goat or are you fish? Yes, and with that 500 bits, the verses moves closer. And that, as a matter of goat versus fish, yes, your total donation, your total contribution to Goat versus Fish, it counts for a verses. It counts for a verses of Goat versus Fish. It counts for a verses of Goat versus Fish. It counts for a verses. But Goat versus Fish will also give fish a verses. During this donation time, during the official and a goatal donation solicitation time, Goat versus Fish Goat versus Fish will indeed say that fish gave the most during, fish were the most generous during donation time. So that's a versus for fish. J-Sticks says, IB, we wish those verses would be larger. Why are the emotes not larger in the verses? It's fish for certain. Celebration for fish. J-Sticks, fish. Fish sticks. Brick Griff says, it's not about the goat or the fish. It's all about the goat versus fish. It is the dialectical relationship between them that gives rise to the spectacular contradictions that shape our reality. Well, that sounds nice. We think Goat versus Fish is going to take a picture of that. We're going to take a picture of that, and we're going to put it on the social media of Goat versus Fish. The crown closer to fish. Yes, with that verses. Crown scooting closer to fish, Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish. Brick Griff, we are posting We are posting your verses into Goat vs. Fish. We're posting your verses onto Church of Goat vs. Fish and to Goat vs. Fish. We post it now to the Instagram. We share the verses. We share the verses.
ShawKnight.com contribution $67.67. Trying to see what is behind the crown.
Trying to see what is behind the crown. 67.67. Oh, my verses. Oh, my verses. Oh, my verses. Oh, my verses. 67.67. 67.67. 67.67. 67.67. 67.67. A huge contribution. A huge contribution. A huge contribution. Trying to see what is behind the crown. 67.67. A huge verses. 67.67. Sixty-seven dot 67. 67.67. 67.67. Behold the 6767 of SeanKnight.com. Celebration, celebration, 67 celebration, 67 celebration, 67 celebration, 67 celebration, 67 celebration. But SeanKnight.com wants to see what's behind the crown. As with 6767, a mighty contribution. Appreciation for your greatest honor, Brick Griff. The verses moves closer to GOAT with 6767, a mighty contribution. The largest contribution we've had in some verses. 6767 for GOAT. And here we are. We shall show you now what is behind the crown. As we have said, it is an indication of how far we are along on the 5-Hour Friday, on the quest for 5-Hour Fridays. As you can see, we have 141 versus American dollars and 70 cents. We are on the way to 500. Perhaps we could relocation this versus so it's not behind the crown of Goat versus Fish. What is the target? 500 versus American dollars. 500 versus American dollars. Of course, we need to add 6767 to what is currently there in the verses. That would make Goat versus Fish. That would make it about 208, 209 verses and 37 cents. 209 verses and 37 cents. 209 verses and 37 cents. That will unlock a 5-Hour Friday stream, and then the verses will reset as we put a goal towards another 5-Hour Friday stream. Because we know we could offer you all kinds of verses for your donations, but we know you really just want more Goat versus Fish. 6767, Goat and Fish. 6767, 142, 142, 37, 142, 37, and then 67, 209, 37, Goat and Fish. A massive contribution to the Church of Goat versus Fish from SeanKnight.com. 209, 37. We are now 290 versus American dollars and 63 cents. 290 and 63 cents away from a 5-Hour Friday stream. Celebration for the contribution of SeanKnight.net.org.com. Church donations are tax deductible, right? Well, SeanKnight.com. That would be true, but Goat versus Fish is yet to achieve 501c3 nonprofit religious organization status. However, that is a goal of Goat versus Fish. That is a goal of Goat versus Fish. So Goat versus Fish, that is part of what we are soliciting these donations for. Goat versus Fish is going to speak to some lawyers, is going to speak to some goat and fish who know about these sort of verses, and Goat versus Fish will indeed achieve 501c3 status, and we think that the Temple of Goat versus Fish is a great versus of evidence. You could go with this, or you could go with that, or you could go with this, or you could go with that, or you could go with goat, or you could go with fish, or you could go, well, don't sit on the fence. Don't sit on the fence. Fairly confident fish won't be able to get the crown back. Goat is taunting the fish. Goat is taunting the fish. Goat is taunting the fish. Appreciation for the 6-7. You are really trying to make a legitimate church on paper? I convict Amber Heard. Oh, you fence sitter, you. Why would you deny Goat versus Fish when Goat versus Fish says we are going to make a 501c3 nonprofit religious organization? Goat versus Fish is not deceiving you. Still, the fence sitter thinks that Goat versus Fish is a joke, thinks that Goat versus Fish is a joke. But yes, Goat versus Fish will do it. And if they will reject the application of Goat versus Fish, then Goat versus Fish will cry of religious oppression. We will cry oppression to Goat versus Fish if they do not accept Goat versus Fish. Because Goat versus Fish is the true verses. Goat versus Fish is the true verses. For in the beginning there was Goat versus Fish, the goat fish, and Goat versus Fish said that there should be goat and that there should be fish. Goat and Fish, it's time for some new technology on Goat versus Fish. SeanKnight.com very frequently to Goat versus Fish has awarded us technology on Goat versus Fish, has awarded technology to Goat versus Fish. And now Goat versus Fish has been investing in some technology of our own. So let's have a look at that versus. Let's have a look at some technology of Goat versus Fish. We look now in the merch bag of Goat versus Fish, exclamation merch, exclamation merch. The bag of Goat versus Fish, eventually goldfish celebration. We look in the bag of Goat versus Fish, available on the merch store of Goat versus Fish, exclamation merch. Goat versus Fish, behold, a small portable monitor for Goat versus Fish. A small portable monitor for Goat versus Fish. Can we put a portable monitor of Goat versus Fish up there at the lectern with Goat versus Fish? Can it be done? Will it be fun? Will we be satisfied with 1920 by 1080p because we can't get a 2K monitor that's a tiny versus? It smells like technology. Harmony, a perfect balance of goat and fish. It can be achieved, though it is difficult. It can be achieved. It could be achieved. Behold the new technology of Goat versus Fish. A small versus, a humble versus. A small and humble versus. A small and humble versus. A small and humble versus. Look at the small and humble verses. We open this. We open the small and humble verses. We open the small and humble verses. So what, it just stands like this? It just stands like this? We suppose that's a fair verses. Seems like a fair verses. So it stands like this for Goat versus Fish. So it stands like this for Goat versus Fish. We shall see now the size, and oh, what a surprise. We shall see now the size here on Goat versus Fish. We thought it came with a stand for Goat versus Fish. We thought we could stand it. We thought we could stand it on Goat versus Fish. Surely there must be some way that we can stand it on Goat versus Fish. This is too flimsish. Perhaps there's a stand within the verses. Perhaps there's a stand within the verses. What are you controlling the camera with? Goat versus Fish is using The very stream deck of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish is using a virtual stream deck application on a bonus phone of Goat vs. Fish that is controlling the cameras of Goat vs. Fish. That is controlling the cameras of Goat vs. Fish. Very humble, very much small. Very much humble, small. Very much humble, small. Goat vs. Fish. We only need a humble versus. Goat vs. Fish is but a humble versus. Tai-G inspired logo. Yes, the unity of Goatfish. Yes, the unity of Goatfish. Let's see what we have here. Do we have any verses in here? Goat vs. Fish. None of these verses will help it stand. How could you give this verses to Goat vs. Fish and not help it stand to Goat vs. Fish? We can't stand it. We can't stand it. Oh, Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish. Flip the verses. Oh, Goat vs. Fish, you do this and then... interesting verses. Interesting verses. We attempt it. We attempt it now. We attempt it now. Built-in stand for Goat vs. Fish with just a slight fold. It is saying, oh, just give a slight fold to the verses. Just give a slight fold to the verses, it says. There is some magnetron. Okay, it's a fair verses. It's a fair verses. We think we can stand it. We think we can just stand it on Goat vs. Fish. And of course, we could put some decoration here. We could put some decoration here. Or we could even just do, we think an angled verses. We like the angled verses. That will allow us to put some decoration. It will allow us to put some decoration if we angle the verses. So Goat vs. Fish. So there's the verses. But now we need connection. Now we need connection to the computation of Goat vs. Fish. Connection to the computation of Goat vs. Fish. I Convict Amber Heard randomly ended up in a whole different stream. All the streams are Goat vs. Fish. They're all Goat vs. Fish. Do not deceive yourself. Every stream is Goat vs. Fish. The technology connections. Behold, technology connections on Goat vs. Fish. We have the power of 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 Goat vs. Fish. It goes like this. Goat vs. Fish. What? It's USB-C to Goat vs. Fish. And what's this? Another USB-C versus? Perhaps it wants USB to... Oh, my versus. So it's a USB-C powered versus? Oh, Goat vs. Fish. Oh, Goat vs. Fish. Here we thought we could use a simple extension for Goat vs. Fish, but now it says no. We demand USB-C power, Goat vs. Fish. Oh, my verses. But which verses is the true verses? Power return key, USB-C, USB-C. USB-C to Goat vs. Fish. USB-B to Goat vs. Fish. Can we power it by either verse? Can we power it by either verse? Goat vs. Fish. So we see. Goat vs. Fish. Behold the power of Goat vs. Fish. Oh, but it's not long enough to reach. Oh, but it's not long enough to reach. Whatever shall we do, Goat vs. Fish? Whatever shall we do, Goat vs. Fish? Well, Goat vs. Fish has just the verses. Goat vs. Fish has just the verses, yes. The technology extension of Goat vs. Fish. The technology extension of Goat vs. Fish. Behold, extension cords. Extension cords of Goat vs. Fish. Extension cords of Goat vs. Fish. Behold, an extension cord of Goat vs. Fish. It's 20 verses long, which is longer than we need. It's longer than we need, but we are still going to use it this versus for the sake of illustration. For the sake of illustration. For the sake of illustration. Goat versus fish. 20 glorious feet of goat versus fish. Do goat have feet? Are hooves feet? Are fins feet? Goat versus fish has award-winning feet, as is known. Dear Brick Griff, if you didn't know, Goat versus Fish has award-winning feet. For the feats of Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish should really have a foot finder account. Promotion the feat of Goat versus Fish. The power of Goat versus Fish. A connection has been made. And Goat versus Fish will run this very power, all across the verses. Oh, the hunger of Goat versus Fish. We said that we've been fasting for nearly 24 million hours now of Goat versus Fish. Nearly 24 million hours. Goat versus Fish now. Now empowering the verses. Goat versus Fish. What? We have to reverse the verses? Oh, Goat versus Fish. We don't want to have the power come out of that. Well, we suppose we could. Sneakily. You could sneakily send the verses back like this. Sneakily back sending the verse. The cable management of Goat versus Fish. Oh, my verses. Is the power all self-contained? Oh, Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish. Let's do this. We've plugged in the verses. We really wish the verses would go about the other way. We wonder if we could upside down reverse the verses. Goat versus Fish. We suppose we could also put the verses on that side of Goat versus Fish and run it in Goat versus testing the verses. We're just testing the verses of Goat versus Fish. It's just a humble test of Goat versus Fish. We go now to empower the monitor of Goat versus Fish. Join us as we empower the monitor of Goat versus Fish. Monitor empowerment. We have achieved monitor empowerment. We believe we have achieved monitor empowerment on Goat versus Fish. The verses continue. Is there any power indication on Goat versus Fish? Shouldn't you be telling us there's no signal or some such fencery? There is a power indication on Goat versus Fish. We like this. However, that is but the power of Goat versus Fish. We still require, does it have HDMI or something? Well, it does come with some. It also comes with USB-C to Goat versus Fish. It does come with an HDMI versus, but Price Douglas Stephen Catfish, Celebration for Fish. But Goat versus Fish has acquired a special versus, particularly for this task. Special verses for this task. And the verses looks like this. We're going from goat to fish. We're going from HDMI mini to standard HDMI. The cable. Celebration, celebration. Celebration for the preparation of goat versus fish. Price Douglas even catfish. Let us record your fish. Let us record your fish. Let us record your fish in the congregation. Your fish has been versus. Recount Price Douglas even the catfish. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. And now it is timing for the HDMIfication. Let's see if it verses. Let's see if it verses. Do you believe in the power of the connections of goat versus fish? Do you believe in the power of the connection of goat versus fish? We hope you do. Goat versus fish now. Connecting to the computation. As long as those powers are HDMI and not USB. These verses? Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. Goat versus, wait, a versus? Wait, a versus, that's not a truly mini HDMI. That's like some other smaller HDMI that's not as mini as the HD. Oh, goat versus fish. What the fence is going on here? Goat versus fish, goat versus fish. It must come with one of these verses. It must come with one of these verses. We thought it was a mini HDMI, but maybe it's just like tiny HDMI that's not as mini HDMI. This cable might be fence. This cable might be fence! The cable might be fence after all. You try your best, Goat and Fish. You try your best. You try your very best. But that's okay, Goat and Fish. We believe we can still manage a connection. It may not be able to make it all the way to the altar of goat versus fish, but we can still develop proof of verses. It comes with the verses. It comes with this verses. It's a short verses, but it comes with this verses. Bezos can probably done fix that. Well, for all the money that goat versus fish makes Bezos, we think that they should. Patistador says, I'm watching goat versus fish dink around the temple for this. Dinking around, yes. This is a tech test stream of goat versus fish. Many of these temple streams this week. It's been temple week. We continue to set up the temple of goat versus fish. We simply continue to set up the temple of goat versus fish. There's also a USB connection. There, perhaps it could be, perhaps USB it could be, but let's try this. Oh, this verse is a double USB verse. Maybe no HDMI is needed here on Goat versus Fish. Maybe one of the verses is for power, and one of the verses is for maybe Goat versus. Maybe it doesn't even need power. Maybe it gets enough power just from being connected to the Goat versus Fish computational services. Goat versus Fish has changed your vocabulary. How so? Okay, so here is Goat versus Fish. We have found it. Ah! We found the verses. Goat versus Fish has now found... I can fix Amber Heard is tired. Well, try choosing Goat or Fish. It may relieve your tiredness. So maybe it's not a mini HDMI. Maybe it's like some kind of small HDMI that's not as mini as a mini HDMI. You don't know what Twitch is doing, but I keep getting like 1.75 seconds of an ad show up in the top right. I hope you're at least getting 1.75 cents for those ads. Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish is getting some fence advertisement revenue. Though if we could give you all a fence advertisement free experience, we would. Goat versus Fish does not care for the fence advertisement monetization. This versus is the A-LOL-G, like LOL. A-LOL-G portable monitor. But do not despair. We have here a cable. We have here a cable for the verses. Model number S1. So we have this versus. Goat versus Fish. So we have this versus. We connect to Goat versus Fish. Connect to Goat versus Fish. Connect to the monitor of Goat versus Fish. Okay, there we have it. Now, Goat versus Fish would need HDMI extension. Now Goat versus Fish would need HDMI extension. And Goat versus Fish thought we purchased HDMI extension, but it wasn't a true HDMI extension. It was a false versus. Does Goat versus Fish have HDMI extenders? What about this versus? What the fence is that? No, Goat versus Fish, that's fancy. Goat versus Fish doesn't need that versus. Goat versus Fish don't need that verse. Those are merely HDMI cables for Goat versus Fish. They are not extensions for Goat versus Fish. Let's try looking at this versus. Goat versus Fish, searching through the cable bag of Goat versus Fish. What do we have in the cable bag of Goat versus Fish? What do we have in the cable bag of Goat versus Fish? Goat versus Fish. Does not seem that we have a true HDMI extension cable for Goat versus Fish. So we're just going to have to test this versus. Not at the lectern of Goat versus Fish. We're going to have to test this versus closer to the standard computation of Goat versus Fish. See if it versus. Extending the streaming PC to the podium. Oh yes, Goat versus Fish. We want to be able to monitor the chat from that versus. We want to be able to click upon things from that versus. This is what we wish. We already have lots of powerful extension. The technology continues. Goat versus Fish will now plug this versus into the computation of Goat versus Fish, into the graphics card of Goat versus Fish. Into the graphics card of Goat versus Fish. In we versus. Noises to Goat versus Fish. We heard a noise on Goat versus Fish. We heard a connection on Goat versus Fish. Your audio playback has changed. Oh, don't do that. Why did it change that verses? Goat versus fish. Can you still hear goat versus fish? Can you still hear goat versus fish? Goat versus fish. Ah, it recognizes a new monitor of goat versus fish. Extend these displays. No, duplicate these displays. Keep the verses. We have now duplicationed the display for goat versus fish. Oh, my verses. It's a bit fancy. It's a bit fancy in some ways. But nothing is appearing. Nothing is appearing on this verses. Nothing's appearing on this verses. What if we unplug the verse? If we unplug the verses, does it recognition? It does recognition, this verses. It recognizes the verses. It recognizes the verses. The displays have been duplication, so where now? Ah, goat versus fish. Goat and fish, we have achieved. We have achieved display. We have achieved double the verses. We have achieved double the display on goat versus fish. Behold! We have double the display on goat versus fish. We have achieved double the display on goat versus fish. We have achieved double the display on goat versus fish. Celebration. Celebration. The little display should mirror the big one, not the reverse verses. Well, isn't that the verses isn't that what's happening now? We have achieved double the verses. Now you have to make sure no one steps on the cable. Oh, there are a lot of cables that we have to make sure don't get stepped upon. And now, goat versus fish. But how will you control the verses? How will you control the verses, goat versus fish? Well, what about the wireless mouse of goat versus fish? The wireless mouse of goat versus fish. A bonus wireless mouse of goat versus fish. And look, goat versus fish. Well, we suppose you can't, maybe you can't see that versus, but goat versus fish already has a wireless mouse that can be extensioned. Perhaps you can see it moving about. So we already have a wireless mouse that can be extension. We can move verses around like this. So goat versus fish, so it's a true versus. It's a true versus. We just need a bit more HDMI extension, a simple HDMI extension. And then this versus can be at the podium of goat versus fish. All that is required is a simple HDMI extension, and this versus can indeed be at the podium of goat versus fish. We have done much this versus. We have done much this versus. We have done much this versus. We appreciate you joining us here. We have done much this versus. We have accomplished much this versus, goat and fish. Together with goat versus fish, anything is versable. You can probably rotation 180, the little one, to get the cable going the other verses. We could try to do that. That would be a nice versus. We could also try to get, well, there's a lot of verses that could be done. There's a lot of verses that can be done. There's a lot of verses that shall be done. Right angle adapters, also for goat versus fish. Tablet stand, BO8, L40K, Q57, SeanKnight.com, will you send that as, well, Goat versus Fish, we can take a picture of that versus. We can take a picture of that versus. Oh, what's Goat versus Fish doing at the computation there? What's Goat versus Fish reaching around for? Oh no, Goat versus Fish. No, you can't do that on stream. Silence, fence sitter. Goat versus Fish is doing nothing untoward, not in the temple of Goat versus Fish. Or maybe precisely in the temple of Goat versus Fish. You never know how it goes. They are on Amazon for $50 versus American dollars. There are wireless HDMI transmitters. Oh, my verses. Wireless HDMI transmitters, you say, but they must, surely they must receive power. But the power could come from this verses. We will find that. We will look for that as well, Padistador. Appreciation. We will also examination this verses. We will also examination that verses. We will also examination that verses. Goat and Fish, this has been a technology stream of Goat versus Fish. This has been a technology stream of Goat versus Fish. I was just going to say, is this the new display, a handheld or a wall mount? For now, it is going to perhaps be on the lectern celebration, the lectern of Goat versus Fish. We may find some other place that we can mount it as well, but we're going to try all kinds of solutions on Goat versus Fish. This is like watching my dad set up a new TV back in the 90s. You like the fast zoom on the camera? A learning versus indeed, yes. Goat versus Fish used to have these cameras set up for 4K, 30 frames of verses, but we have reductioned it to 1080p, 30 frames of verses, and we believe we're getting less stuttering, less demand on the temple of Goat versus Fish. Hi-Fi Protege, salutations, I'm on the train wayward to my vehicle. Celebration, Hi-Fi Protege. Make some noise for Hi-Fi Protege, who's on their way. Hi-Fi Protege, are you goat or fish today? Are you goat or are you fish? The time has come, the time has come to count the verses. The time has come to count the verses. The time has come to count the verses. Goat received a verses. Goat received a verses. For Lord Saturn climbed the very mountain of Fuji. Celebration. And Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish. The fish earned a verses. The fish earned a verses. The fish also earned a verses because the fish gave the most during the donation portion of Goat versus Fish. However, total donations far exceeded the official donation portion of Goat versus Fish by Goat from SeanKnight.com with 67.67. Celebration. Celebration for no lagging and no freezing. Celebration. Celebration. Goat for Hi-Fi Protege. Goat. So that is a verses for Goat. So that's a verses for the Goat. Goat with the Uncle Bo. Also have Radiation 5 Goat Raiders from the Uncle Bo. There are no radiations for fish. So that's another verses for Goat. That's another verses for Goat. 3 verses for Goat, 1 verses for fish. And Goat and Fish, we have 3, 6, 9 Goat in the verses and 3, 6, 9 fish. We have 9 Goat and 9 fish. That's an even verses. That's an even verses, Goat and Fish. That's an even verses, Goat and Fish. That's an even verses. There are 3 fence sitters. There are 2 goats for unification. There are 2 goats for unification. In the verses of subscription, we had 2 subscriptions for Goat. 2 subscriptions for Goat. That's a verses. That's a verses for Goat. That's a verses for Goat. That's 4 verses for Goat and 1 verses for fish. Let's check the YouTube poll. Let us check the YouTube poll now. YouTube poll check. YouTube poll check. 43%. Who is better with technology? Goat tech, fish tech, Luddite, or hybrid futurism? Goat has won with 7 votes. 43% of the vote went for goat. 43% went for goat. 43% went for goat. That's another versus for goat. With 5 verses for goat. With 5 verses for goat, 1 versus for fish, and a split versus between the verses of domination with both 9 goat and 9 fish. Goat versus fish declares a triumph, a triumph, a triumph for goat. A triumph for goat. A triumph for goat. Goat win a second versus. Goat win a second versus. Celebration for goat. Celebration for goat. Celebration for goat. Celebration for goat. The goat are now on a streak of 2. The goat are now on a streak of 2. The goat now on a streak of 2. Goat versus fish now. I can fix Amber Heard. You can enjoy the view as goat versus fish climbs the verses. As goat versus fish climbs the verses to change the streak of goat to 2. 2 for goat. This is all part of maintaining the temple of goat versus fish. Celebration. 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 Celebration! Celebration for goat! Wow, you're so smart, goat versus fish. The goat, the goat, the goats do triumph. The goats do triumph over the fish. The goat, the goat, the goats do triumph. The goats do triumph over the fish. Well, Goat vs. Fish is learning some of these celebrations on the keyboard of Goat vs. Fish. Celebrate of our goat, celebrate of our goat! Goat, 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 goat wins the verses! Goat wins the verses! Goat and Fish. This has been a versus of Goat versus Fish. This has been a versus of Goat versus Fish. But Goat and Fish, it would not be a versus of the Temple of Goat versus Fish. It would not be a temple of the versus of Goat versus Fish without a shout out. Without a shout out to our dear patrons of Goat vs. Fish. Without a shout out to our dear patrons of Goat vs. Fish. And Goat vs. Fish will do that now. DJ Pasty with 3 consecutive streams celebration for 3 consecutive streams of Goat vs. Fish. 3 consecutive streams of Goat vs. Fish. We're building it. We're building the congregation. Goat by goat, fish by fish. Celebration. Celebration, Goat and Fish. Celebration, Goat and Fish. We now read from the patrons of Goat vs. Fish. From the patrons of Goat vs. Fish. Join patreon.com/Goat vs. Fish to make monthly contributions to the Church of Goat vs. Fish. To the Church of Goat vs. Fish. It's a great way to support Goat vs. Fish. And every contribution you make, if you become a patron of Goat vs. Fish, if you become a patron of Goat vs. Fish, if you become a patron of Goat vs. Fish, if you become a patron of Goat vs. Fish, your contribution will count for 5 times the verses. 5 times the verses. 5 times the verses towards the 5-Hour Friday. If you become a $5 patron, we'll add 25 versus American dollars to the 5-Hour Friday fund. If you become a 10 versus American dollar patron, we'll add 50 versus American dollars to the 5-Hour Friday fund. If you become a 20 versus American dollar patron, we will add 100 versus American dollars to the 5-Hour Friday fund. And just beyond that. And now, the glorious reading of the names of the patrons of Goat vs. Fish. The humble congregation, Ben Goat vs. Fish. Bird is such a fancy name, that's why it's hard for Goat vs. Fish to pronounce. The humble congregation of Goat vs. Fish. 5 versus American dollar a month patrons. Ben Bird Person. The Quaxinator. Jimmy Wrench. And Mama Joe Brahma Joe. Standard Average. Tugger Rugger. Hogrim. Uber Kitten. Patty Stedor. Eventually Gold. Eventually Gold. Prism Bloom. Lord Saturn. Wait, Lord Saturn's part of the elite humble congregation. Goat vs. Fish. Psychic Buckeye 12. Drew John. And Hi-Fi Protege. The elite humble congregation. 10 versus American dollars a month. Karmic. Prue Lawrence. Atrolete. Sourdough. Watt 9807. That one bulk guy. Napoleon Doom. And Lord Saturn, who climbed Mount Fuji this very versus. Appreciation. and the Unification Congregation for $20 versus American dollars a month or more. With great dedication to the congregation of Goat vs. Fish, it's I Can Fix Amber Heard and Lysergic Freak Fish. Celebration for the Unification Congregation. The Unification Congregation. And that's the verses. That's the verses. That's your morning motivation of Goat versus Fish. Appreciation, appreciation, appreciation. When you are out in the land and the sea, look about you, look about you. Find one who is lost. Find one who does not know the way. And ask, simply ask, are you goat or are you fish? These are the verses of Goat versus Fish, the goat fish. And it was written, and it was written. Tonight, Goat versus Fish is at Booby Trap, LA. Doors at 6:30 p.m. Show at 7:30 p.m. at the Illusion Magic Lounge in Santa Monica. There's still time to get tickets for the Booby Trap. Goat vs. Fish. If any of you here in the congregation wish to join Goat vs. Fish at Booby Trap LA, send a whisper to Goat vs. Fish. Send a DM to Goat vs. Fish on Instagram at GoatVsFish. Goat vs. Fish will be at the Comedy Store this Saturday on the Riff Raff, on Billy Myers' The Riff Raff with Doug Benson, who Goat vs. Fish has not shared the stage with since that fateful verses of Kill Tony all those years ago. Goat vs. Fish. Join Goat vs. Fish at the Comedy Store on Saturday. Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish. So many shows of Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish will also be making an appearance at Killer Clown Fest. At Killer Clown Fest, where there will be a demonstration of Killer Clown Fish by the Radioactive Chicken Heads, celebration for fish, and also a screening of Killer Clowns from Outer Space at the Gardena Cinema, also this Saturday. Are you goat or are you fish? Getting dug with high, getting dug with Goat versus Fish. You're getting dug with Goat versus Fish. You're getting dug with Goat versus Fish. You're getting dug with Goat versus Fish. Goat and Fish, we have been fasting for 24 hours now, maybe 23. Goat vs. Fish is about to enjoy some consumption. We appreciate you joining here once again at the congregation of Goat vs. Fish. Appreciation to all our new followers. Goat and Fish, we are building a congregation. It's not just a live stream. It's not just here for your passive entertainment. The congregation of the Verse Church of Goat vs. Fish is here to provide a service to you and to the whole universe. Celebration for Goat. The Goat did triumph over the fish, but next verses, the fish may be back. Appreciation to SeanKnight.com and Random TV for their outsized contributions this verses to Goat vs. Fish, and to all the subscribers who subscribe, and Lucid Nap who subscribes to Goat vs. Fish, and for all the gifts, and for all the gifts to the congregation. You humble Goat vs. Fish. You humble Goat vs. Fish. However, before we leave you, we're going to do 10 morning celebrations. 10 morning celebrations. 10 morning celebrations. If you haven't done your morning celebrations yet, let's do those 10 morning celebrations. And down we go, versus Fish. That's ones, that's ones, that's one. Celebration. That's twos, that's twos, that's twos. Celebration for twos. That's threes, that's threes. Celebration for threes, celebration for threes. No overheating this versus. Celebration. Fours, fours, celebration for fours, celebration for fours. Celebration five, celebration five, celebration five, celebration for five, celebration for five. And one more versus six, celebration six, celebration six, celebration six, celebration for six, celebration for six. And goat versus fish, celebration, celebration seven, celebration for goat versus fish. And eight for goat versus fish, eight for goat versus fish, celebration for eight, celebration for eight, celebration for eight, goat versus fish. And nine for goat versus fish, down for nine for goat versus fish, that's nine versus, that's nine versus. And 10 for goat versus fish, celebration, celebration for 10, celebration for 10. We've done it again, goat and fish. We've done it again, goat and fish. Great efforts of goat versus fish, great efforts. Great efforts of goat versus fish. Hi-Fi Protege, you trying to go to the show tonight? You trying to go? Hi-Fi, you trying to go to the Booby Trap, LA? Trying to go to the Booby Trap? If you wish to go to the Booby Trap to support Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish will support your ticket purchase. Goat versus Fish will make a donation towards your ticket purchase. Goat versus Fish, if you require Goat versus Fish, cover the whole verses. You could cover the whole verses. After all, you had to pay for a toe in recent verses. And that was a bit fancy. So maybe Goat versus Fish could treat you to a booby trap as long as you say you're there for Goat versus Fish. As long as you say you're there for Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish. It's time, it's time, it's time. It's time. Oh, Goat versus Fish. Didn't we do this versus? Goat versus Fish did this. Watch this. Goat versus Fish just with the press of a versus. Just with the press of a versus now. Temple Tech Time. Morning Motivational number 107. Look, there it is. Look, there it is. Okay, YouTube, we'll see you next versus. Appreciation high five for always being here for Goat versus Fish. What's this versus? Error. Please use a key frame frequency of 4 seconds or less. Currently, keyframes are not being sent often enough, which can cause buffering. The current keyframe frequency is 8.3 seconds. Note the ingestion errors can occur. What's this versus? That's new to Goat versus Fish. We haven't seen that before on YouTube. Something fencing along. Is the stream on YouTube being fancy? Are there getting YouTube errors on Goat versus Fish? Is that what we're learning? Goat versus Fish open widget. 10:54 a.m. error. So it just happened on Goat versus Fish. The stream's current bit rate is higher than the recommended bit rate. We recommend that you use the stream bit rate of 6,800. But we thought the bit rate was only 6,000 on Goat versus Fish. Was there some kind of glitch in the verses? Oh, Goat versus Fish has the bit rate set to 60,000. Oh, my verses. 60,000 bit rate. Application 6,800. Celebration. The streaming output has been verses to 6,800, not 60,000 on Goat versus Fish. What an amazing versus. Goat versus Fish streaming with a 60,000 bit rate. We told you it was a technology stream on Goat versus Fish. We told you it was. We told you it was. We told you it was. The recording of Goat versus Fish. 6,800 application. Application. Dragon Ball 325 celebration. Okay, YouTube, we'll see you next verses.